Hey everyone, happy November 2025. My gosh, we're a week before Thanksgiving. It's an ex, it's starting this season, right? Actually, the season started with the Christmas trees up before Halloween, which always drives me nutty. But so listen, we have our four original friends here. I invited this to be an open meeting, and so far we have our four originals. We have lost our good friend Kate. She and her family are having personal issues that just it precludes her from being with us for a while. So hopefully she'll come back. Anyway, we have opened this meeting up, and Rebecca Dusk, our good
Rebecca.
friend, who also is
Hi.
and John Rizzi, who are both members of the Conceptual Blending Board, have decided to come in and join. Thank you guys for coming. I really appreciate it. Wow, six. This is the most we've ever had. Anyway, and then there's the rest of us. So, Anne Marie, you are from Ireland.
Yes.
He is from Minneapolis, Minnesota. Yvonne, are you still on the coast or are you back in
No, still on the coast, still on the peninsula, Long Beach.
okay, and but your regular home is Seattle or
I'm at the bottom of the state of Washington. I'm just a bridge away from Oregon.
Oh my
Literally.
gosh.
I of course am in South Texas, 6 miles from the Rio Grande River. John, you are in wine country out in California, right? Northern?
Yeah, Sonoma County, Northern
Oh,
California.
Sonoma County. Oh, how wonderful. And then Rebecca, you are from what, Hamilton?
Ontario, the land of ice and snow, Canada.
So
Hey, Canada.
we've lost our dear friend Kate from New Brunswick, right? And
Was it New
then
Brunswick?
but we've replaced her now with Ontario. So we still have we still have our Canada connection.
No.
Hey, so as we open this up to new people, I'm going to keep doing a structured meeting. I like having something to talk about. I like something to keep us on task. But this is only just a formality that gives us, some structure. If anybody ever comes here and has other things that they need or want to talk about, whether it's going pro, whether it's somebody who's brand new at this stuff, I'm going to welcome anybody to come and bring whatever they want. We'll talk about whatever is most important. But if we don't have anything more important than today, I thought we'd talk about the sevens. Somehow we
I think
started with the kings and worked backward. I don't know how that happened, but we'll take it. Anyway, shall we open with the chariot, the one big one for the major arcana? Anybody want to start? Anybody want to have anything in particular that they rely on for the chariot, or when they see that in a reading? I guess I need to grab a deck.
I was just pulling up my sevens, pulling the cards out. Yeah, somebody else can start. I mean, why not?
Have any other big ones? All right.
I've got a singer in the background, so I'll let someone else start.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll start then. I like to have key phrases. I like to have keywords, to help tip me off on the cards. And for me, with the chariot, it's ambition. And I think that it's just like pure determination that we need to move forward. And we do that oftentimes without over analyzing things. There are things that make us sit back and think about everything. And then there's things that make us move forward without thinking about it. And I just think that we have to be mindful when that card comes up that that we're going to harness it in such a way that we don't, run into a brick wall. Because, without giving it a lot of thought, just, action and no, maybe not enough to substantiate that action. But sometimes we just need to move for the sake of moving, for God's sake, because we're not moving. And I like to see that come up. Ultimately, this card tells me that if in order to be successful, we have to stay the course. And so there's your focus, because a lot of people, see this card as focus. Showing up when we are in some kind of need to move or some kind of movement in the right direction toward a goal or a destination or someplace in particular. And to me, it's victory through discipline as opposed to doing something impulsive that might not get us the results that we want. And so I think it's that energy or that mentality. To finish up my notes from my personal journal, I put a specific person in your life. If you're asking about somebody in particular, this might tell us that that person could be reckless or kind of have an ego that's running out of control or running amok. And that's a possibility of why that might be coming up. As a connector card, it could be the driving force behind whatever the issue is, or it could be the driving force required to attain whatever the next card might be or whatever the situation. And as a shadow card, I think that it says that we have no control over the situation or we lack direction. I think would be the reversed on that. So I don't know if anybody else wants to add anything to the Chariot.
Well, I'll add something embarrassing. I was taking my cards out of order. I'm doing the drop of 78, and so I pulled out all my sevens from the deck I'm working with. My Chariot card is missing. So that would have been a real problem in about 3 weeks. So I got to find that, or I can't find it. So yeah.
Did the cat take it?
I think the cat took it. I don't know, but it's all right. I have other decks. We will move on.
Anybody?
But I always thought the Chariot willpower is the first word that comes to mind. And like you kind of said, you got to know where you're steering, sort of thing.
Yeah, you kind of got to keep control of that, a little bit of control of that, because it can get away from you. My Chariot.
So I have the big board. Yeah, your old standard Chariot.
Yeah, I'm looking at a standard deck this time.
I never lose cards, so I'm really surprised. So we'll have to see. It's probably in here.
Hey Dee, when do you see this card come up for you in your readings, especially with these younger kids? Because you tend to be you're like a reader of the college crowd. They tend to like you.
Actually, there are times when I will pull it out and explain this card. This card means you're thinking in the right direction, you're on the right path, because all these kids that do come in, they're, when I ask them what's your question, which they all say, I don't know. None of them have the question. But I finally learned with those kids that if you find yourself daydreaming, where does that lead you? Where do you go? Or if you wake up in the middle of the night, what's on your mind? That's your question. And if I can zero in on that, a lot of it is, what am I going to do after I graduate? What am I going to do when I get into this new course? And it all is their journey. And I usually pull that card just to give them a kind of feeling of being grounded. Here, that's what this means. So where do you want to go from there? And I think they kind of appreciate it because they don't think of themselves as ever finding that ending. But if you show them, and specific tarot cards too, that if you look at it, the team of horses and stuff like that, things that they'll pull out of that card. I just think that it just makes them feel better that all's not lost, and then go from there.
Yeah, I think that, and that's a great lead in also to doing like an option spread. It's, where am I going? What am I doing? What is it that you want to do? Because we'll get into that with the cups, but like what is it that you want to do? And maybe we can pull some cards and just get you some clear thinking going that direction. I have really been
one thing leads to another.
Yeah, I have really been leaning ever since I read the book. In fact, Rebecca, you and I did this together. We read the book Tarot Healer. Hell, I'd had it in my library for 4 years and didn't even realize it. And I pulled it out one day, and and it's amazing. It's about healing, chakra healing, but using the tarot to do it. And I think is it Lisa Robertson? Is that right, Rebecca?
Yeah.
Okay.
That got, yes, it was. I got so big. That was the start of my second tarot journal. That just became its own book. That's the chakra with Lynn binder. Like it just ended up massive.
Yeah, it's been amazing. But
And I didn't finish it like you did. I still have a couple chakras to go.
I know, me too. Well, I
Yeah.
finished it. I'm going back now and repeating stuff. So, anybody?
I found my notes for the chariot finally, just my real keyword stuff, real decisions, choices, taking control, willpower, victory, travel. It's a lot about control though, determination, drive, focus, movement, ambition. Those would all be chariot keywords for me, for what
Yeah,
it's worth.
absolutely. Anne Marie, got anything to add?
What strikes me about the chariot, I think of Cassandra Easton. I loved her take on it. That
No kidding.
I just pulled it up too.
yeah,
Yeah.
that she tells us that when we get the chariot card, to make sure that we're in the driving seat of whatever vehicle is moving forward, that we know where we want to go. Because if you don't do that, if you haven't decided where you want to go, if you remain a passenger, you're going to end up where somebody else wants to go, and that's not to be recommended. And when I think of the chariot, I think it's number 7. So at this stage, the fool on his journey has learned a number of things. He has learned he has 6 other good learnings under his belt, and he's beginning to think that he can get somewhere now. He can do something. So again, it's about character and will and determination and standing back and deciding. The 7s, I think, are always about standing back, reflecting before you go any further. So I think you've got to stand there, think, like Cassandra says, where do you want to go? Where do you see yourself in X years' time, or even at the end of a current situation? And make sure that's the direction you're steering in, that someone else isn't leading you astray.
Anne Marie, because I heard about this book through Lynn. Do you also have this book? Is that where you're?
Yes.
Oh my God, I had to get this used, and Lynn said I was so lucky to find a copy.
Very, very hard to find it. And I'll tell you a funny story. A friend of mine gave me this years ago when I was collecting tarot books, and I looked at it, and it was a bit dog-eared. And when I saw the pictures in it, I thought, well, I'll take this, but why will I take? I'll take it so as not to offend her, but I'm never going to look at this. And it's the best book ever, especially tarot for the females of the species. It really hones in on what's happening.
Oh yeah, it was written in an era, like you can tell it was.
I love it. I love it. Yeah.
Would you guys like to hear this excerpt? It's pretty short. It says, this is the choose the route card. It's about using your impetus to get moving, though it may well be uphill at first. Because if you are content to sit in the passenger seat, you can't really complain that you didn't choose the destination. You can end up doing what other people decided was best, career-wise, or they may even have some influence over choosing your partner. Grown-up children can be the worst tyrants of all for wanting to preserve the status quo. If you get the chariot in a reading, the winds of change have probably been blowing around you, and you may feel that you are being carried along in a direction that you didn't want to go.
I agree. Yeah. So it's a get up and go card, isn't it?
It is.
Shift your butt. But know where you're putting it.
It's funny because, I'm really big on the Tarot Mountain by Mary Kay Greer. And the 6s are at the top of the mountain. Yay, temporary success. You've made it. You deserve to get a pat on the back for that, But then you got to start that deep descent. It's like, oh no. And to me, the 7s because of her, have always been about retesting. Nothing goes up in a straight line and nothing comes down in a straight line. And so to me, it's you know what, you've come here, you've done this, you've figured out what works. Now you got to retest. Now you're going to get retested to see if what you've put together is really, is really solid. Is it a solid plan? And so I kind of look at the 7s like that too. Anything added, John, on the sevens for you?
I guess the Chariot for me is a card of independence and kind of
Ooh.
confidence, moving forward. I like in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, it has the city behind them.
Mhm.
And, like it's a card of kind of going your own way and maybe not, looking for the information to come from people, outside of you, like moving forward and, so sevens actually in general are kind of confidence cards for me in finding your own strength and sometimes you got to go your own way and moving forward in the way you kind of move in the world, so that's kind of
I like that a lot. The independence angle.
Yeah, me
Mm.
too.
Mm.
yeah.
And
So
John,
it's
listening to you say that, you know what that reminds me of? That reminds me of act first, ask for forgiveness second.
Mm.
You know,
It's easy.
because
It,
I
it,
know for me, a lot of times, like I'll start asking everybody's advice, and then you just get kind of muddled in, like, should I do this and should I do that? And sometimes you got to find your own confidence and just like, I want to do this. This feels right for me. So that's kind of what that card
Sure.
is for me.
And do you know what I think is a lovely idea? I have found that when you're torn between choices, to sit back and ask yourself, if I take choice 1, 2, or 3, where do I see this? Where do I see this ending out in X time forward?
See, I do
And
that. That's my
follow,
favorite, an option spread. That's my
yeah,
favorite thing to do with clients. It's
follow
like,
it through.
somebody said, well, should I continue with this? Should I continue on with this major, or do I need to switch majors now? And I'll say, well, why don't we take a look at what your path might look like if you stay with this major? What might your path look like if you change to the other one? And let the cards lay out, let the cards show what the possibilities are. And you're not really, you're not divining the future for them. And you're also not being the one to choose it. You're leaving it open for them to say, gee, I can see how this could go this way, or I could see how it goes that way. So
I think that'd be really helpful because you can get the other person talking and interactive with the
right.
reading.
And that's
And
Yeah, I love
especially good
that.
for Dee's crowd, because
yeah.
I was talking about the options spread, D, being good for for the college crowd, because it's let them decide. Here's what it looks like going this direction. Here's the other one.
And what I found in doing it that way, you come across unexpected, not nice consequences that you hadn't thought about. You think,
Yeah,
oops, this could mean this, and
very true.
this is not quite what I thought would happen, or not quite how I envisioned myself in a year's time or 2 years, or it means if I do this, I won't be able to do this other thing.
Right.
And this is where it really turns up trumps, that you can see it clarifies.
Yeah.
See, it's a clarifier.
Yeah. Yeah. DR clarifying queen. Hey, let's move on. We've got 4 more cards to deal with.
Can I just add one thing?
Yes.
Yeah, with the Chariot,
Mm-hmm.
to me, when I see the Chariot, it tells me that you're in the driver's seat. You're in control. You're going to always have people on the left, people on the right. But which way do you want to go? Keep your focus. And yeah, I mean, it's like driving. If you're on the freeway, you know where you're going. You know where you want to be, right?
Yep.
Hopefully.
You have all
Yeah.
these fools on the left and on the right,
Oh,
and they're weaving in and out. And what do? You stay focused. Stay focused. It doesn't. It doesn't necessarily mean that you can't. I mean, you have to pay attention, right?
I was just
You
going to
have to
say,
pay
and
attention to
pay
what's
attention.
happening around you. Okay, but always maintain your focus.
Yes.
Whatever your ultimate goal is, you're driving.
Right.
Right.
Unless, of course, if you have one of those cars that drive themselves, well then
I don't think we're there
that's
yet.
a choice.
No.
Then that's a choice.
Well,
Hope
I
not.
think too that if don't force it. If it's going to come to you, it will come to you at your own time. So there's a little bit of patience in there, but
Yeah.
that waiting is it trying. So if you nurture it along, it'll bring growth, but don't force it.
Yeah, and you've already been on
That's
this
what I have to tell
journey.
my kids. Because
Yeah.
you know what their speed is.
Yeah, and you've already,
Yeah.
you're at this point, you're
See, to
already on your,
me-
you've already gone through so much.
And something strikes me as well. It also comes as a slight warning. If you look at the card, most of the chariot cards have the two animals in front are directly opposite. You've got black and white. So it might tell you that the decisions you have to make going forward are not going to be easy. Be ready for things that don't look as if they could possibly materialize. Don't think it's going to be easy. That you could have a rocky road in whatever particular project you're doing at the moment, but you're in the driving seat, as Yvonne says.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's
Mhm.
a positive, very positive card.
And having to navigate that path in between the two
Yes.
opposing forces.
Yeah.
So let's move on to the Seven of Wands.
The Seven of Wands.
Well, yeah, this card. Now that I know the cat has probably taken my chariot card and charioted away somewhere.
Oh,
I
yeah,
remember
it
the
is.
deck falling while I was doing a study, and now I'm like, I bet I know where that card is. But this is
So,
a weird deck.
For me, if you look at him and you notice his stance, and I didn't notice this until I started, working with chakra stuff. But if you noticed, he's really grounded, isn't he? I mean, he looks like he's really, he's really kind of dug in, and he looks really grounded, as especially like when he's encountering, somebody who's challenging him.
Every
And
time I see that card, it reminds me, I did years and years of karate, and we used those bow staffs. So every time I see that card, it's defense, defend to me. I just see it. So
yeah.
for what that's worth.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have felt this card this week. For me, it's a time when you feel like you're under attack, like everyone is strategizing against you. Everyone's coming at you, and feeling overly defensive and looking for a fight or looking to defend. I've kind of had some things this week that's made me feel that way. So. I think it can be. I think it can be a sign of being overly defensive, and trying to overcome obstacles, and especially at work. So when you are at work and you are at the top of your game, everybody wants to knock you off the mountain, right? It's like, so it's standing in defense. But I will say this: the fact that he has no armor on at all, which they do in a lot of the cards. It kind of leads me to believe that there's no physical danger with this card. It's more emotional, or it's more an intellectual attack, and he's just reinforcing his stance just in case, he has to stand his ground, stand his moral, high ground. So anybody else have anything on this one?
I think he's been caught. How do you say it? He's been caught wrong-footed, or without due notice that something was happening. He's got to stand his ground from an unexpected attack that people who might have been supporting it. It always reminds me of the ones going by. I remember saying it before, that the card before the sevens is the Six of Wands, where everything, people are saying, oh, you're wonderful, oh, you're terrific, and then the seven comes, and suddenly some of these people are saying, maybe he's getting too big for his boots now. If you look down at his footwear, he's not matched footwear, so he's not as steady as he should be. He wasn't expecting this to happen, but maybe if he just pulls back, lets it all blow over, it will work out nicely for him, rather than engaging in conflict, because the ones aren't coming up. They're not actually touching his staff. They look as if they could be passing by. So I say, ride it out. Let them wear themselves out. You just stand in your strength.
Yeah, stand in your ground.
He also, in a lot of ways, has the high ground. You could say he's taking the high road.
Yeah.
uh,
He's in a
not
position of advantage.
not wallowing to other people's levels. Like
Yeah.
that's just one interpretation.
Yeah.
Take the high road.
Yeah.
So
Anybody else?
he's holding a superior position, and stand back, let them all take the flak.
Yay.
Yeah, kind of for me, kind of standing in his place of power, So wands for me are about passions, like what he's passionate about, what he's excited about, and he's gonna like stand there and say, this is what's important to me, and so I'm gonna defend my position if I need to, for my growth and moving forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think the wands for me are about passion too. My passions, my creativity, my energy. Some, in some people when they're talking about the, talking about elements, they call it spirit. That would be the spirit one. So it's definitely high energy. So we have the Seven of Cups. I have.
Oh, this card. This is, sorry, I gotta say something. The Seven of
Okay.
Cups. This is the card that made me buy this weird deck that I'm doing the study on. It's the Seven of Cups and it's a dragon. I don't know if my inner child was just fascinated by this. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah.
And the keyword is imagination. So there you go. That's it. That's my one big card that made me buy the whole deck.
I have those.
You must have. Somebody else has done that, right? One card. You're like, I gotta have.
And then I didn't like any of the rest of them.
Yeah.
D, what's a deck that you bought it for one card?
This deck, well, it's kind of a goofy. It's called Rackham. Have you heard of that?
No.
Rackham Tarot.
No.
And only because, and I just have to take you back a second. Back to the wands, when it says you stand your ground or you're going to meet it because you couldn't run into obstacles. This card is one of them that I loved it.
Oh,
There's
wow, that's
the obstacle.
cool.
It just stands right up in front of you and says, stand your ground, stand tall, because here it comes.
Oh my God.
And after Anne Marie explained what 6 is, of course, this is inevitable. So here it comes. What other one? Lynn, what other deck did I get for one? I think, who knows? I do it.
I don't know about you, but the mystical moments, tarot of mystical moments. I got that.
Oh, yeah.
I bought that whole thing strictly for the nine of what's it? The 9 of Pentacles. Yes,
yes.
she looked like Carmen
The hat.
Yeah, with the fruit on her head. I thought that was wonderful. And I have another deck here that is
that's great.
That I'm going through this deck going, I don't understand why I'm not using this deck, because I bought it for one card one card I saw and I said had to have it. And I never use this deck, and it's called Mystical Tarot. And I'll pull up the card here in a minute and show you that. Anyway, I can, there are certain cards that just really grab my attention, and the sevens, coming back to the sevens really do grab my attention. On the cups, for me, I think I feel like we're only limited by our imagination, with the cups, especially when if you see it with the 2 of swords at the same time, it's like that's telling us, hey, you are limiting yourself, because you're thinking about it, you're daydreaming about it, but you're not actually trying to turn that dream into a goal, and so let's pull some cards and see where we can take some action on that. So to me, that's turning a dream into reality, and I kind of like to see it as more of a positive thing. I also see it as wishful thinking sometimes. And it's a terrific opportunity then to pull, an options spread and analyze, what are our options, what's real and what's not. Also, I wanted to say that I sometimes see this with people experiencing physical health symptoms, because I feel like they're not grounded, right? Their whole psyche is so up in the air that they're not grounded, and it's coming out now in a physical, it's manifesting itself physically, when we're not grounded. Again, something I picked up from chakra stuff.
Mm.
So I don't see it as addiction. I don't see, people use it as, as a sign of addiction or something. I don't really see that. Do you guys?
No, I tend to see it as confused thinking. Maybe you're in the dark. The person in the card is in the dark, and they're swirling. I'm looking at the Rider-Waite-Smith one, and they're swirling grey all around, all kind of a sense of confusion, and all these things seem to be available to him. So I'm thinking the phrase that comes to me all the time is pie in the sky. You have no idea. You have all these promises, and how many of them are real? How many, and what do they really mean? What does the fine print say? So I'm thinking, how many of those options are viable?
Right.
So it's funny because today's card for me in the daily study is the Seven of Cups. And I read that exact keyword in my research, addiction. I see the Seven of Cups, I think, as a better card than most people. Like, it gets a bad rap, I think. Like, it says overactive imagination. Okay, supposedly, to who? Like, this is my
That's relative.
ADHD card. Like, to me, this is my ADHD card, my personal meaning. When you're overwhelmed by choices and you just gotta like, which one? So
You
And
know,
I think
they're not all possible. That's the whole thing. Maybe to tell yourself straight off, all of these aren't possible. So what are my basic choices?
Or what's your priority?
Yvonne looks like she has something to say about
Yeah.
this.
yeah, it's just that when I love this card, okay, at first
It's not just me.
yeah, I'm with you. This card to me, I mean, like I resonate with this card because I have, yeah, my head's full of fantasies and dreams and stuff like that. I'm an artist. What can I say? You know,
Yeah.
and as an artist, I find myself wanting to do everything. I want to paint. I want to throw clay. I want to work. I want to make jewelry. And so when I see this card, sometimes I think about the magician, and
Yeah.
that we have all these gifts. Yeah, it's a card of decision for sure. What you want to do, and but it's like part of me is like, well, why can't I do it all? I mean, why do I have to be so focused on only one thing, when I'm actually good at a lot of things? So, I guess it just depends on what the question is for the querent, um, what they're, how you're going to use this card, how you're going to interpret this card. If it's for yourself, then, then yeah, like for myself, when I throw this card, and if I get this card and I get the magician as well in my spread, it's like, okay, okay,
Hmm.
maybe
I
I
like
can focus
I
on
like
one.
that. I like that, Ivana, that idea of why not do them all. So maybe this card is an invitation to you, or not to you, but when you get the card, it's an invitation to figure out, can I do them all? What's stopping me? What are the obstacles that would stop me doing each and every one of those?
Right.
And therein lies being limited
And
by your own, by
Hmm.
just
well,
being
yeah, and
limited by
depending
our own
on,
imagination. Yeah.
But
Limited by
I do see the ADD overwhelm, which has got to be something like the artist thing where you've got so many ideas and
well, yeah,
have to
it's something.
Yeah.
agree.
So for me, cups are about feelings. So I think it can be like a lot of things. Like you can feel like you want to do all these things, or you can feel overwhelmed with all the choices.
Emotional overload.
Hmm.
Yes, so
Yeah,
it's
yes.
10.
So many
But it's
shinies.
also to me a card about like dreaming and imagination and like I could do all this stuff, or I feel like I want to do, like Yvonne, like what you were saying, like I feel like I can do all this stuff, and and then other times I feel stressed out by all these choices, or like because I'm an artist too, it's like, do I want to do this today? Do I want to paint? Do I want to do fiber? I want to do my glass or whatever? And then so it could be kind of either one to me, like a um kind of overload, but also like I can do anything, like there's
But John, let me ask, when you get like that, or either one of you artists, when you get that in your head, you're in between, you're finally at a point where you don't have 15 projects going at the same time, and it's or even if you
There's
do,
only
it's what
7.
am I going to work on
It
today?
is,
I mean,
yes.
don't you ever get to the point of analysis paralysis where you can't figure out what you want? You're so overloaded or overwhelmed about
Yeah.
what you're going to do next that you do nothing at that point, but just sit and think about it.
a lot
Well,
of
you're
times.
doing something. You're doing something. You're
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 spinning.
still you're still breathing.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're freaking doing something. Now, whether or not you're actually creating something,
Achieving anything.
yeah, you're creating in your mind, right?
Yeah.
And you know, and the thing with this card too, it's like God was when someone was talking about it, it came to my mind that yeah, you know, procrastination could be somehow involved in this
Oh
too,
yeah.
Mhm.
Yes,
you
absolutely.
know,
Yeah.
You know
because
what
there are
else
so
I like
many
to,
choices.
you know what
And you
else
know,
I see with this card is um be careful what you wish for.
yes,
And I
yes.
also see that with the 9 of cups, but with this one too, it's like wishful thinking, but be careful what you wish for, because you
I'm
know,
looking at my keywords here. Daydreaming.
Yes,
Good one.
See, and that's something you're doing something,
But I
yes.
right?
do know this card, most people interpret more negatively than I do, like illusion, overactive imagination, shadow self, all that kind of stuff. Pie in the sky. That's on here.
alcoholism. Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
know, it reminds me a bit looking at it now. It reminds me,
Alcoholism. Yeah.
it reminds me of myself and tarot decks. You're looking, is it this one?
Oh, yeah.
Is it? And they all seem to have exactly what you want, but you just get totally confused at some stage and say, "Wow!" Until you keep buying them.
Oh yeah. See?
Oh, and
Yeah.
then so like I like the Marseille because it's just seven cups, So then for me, my keywords for sevens is confidence. So then I would take that reading
So,
depending on what it was to a place of,
so are you
your
confidently emotionally overwhelmed or
well, so it's funny because depending on what we're talking about, I would be looking at, emotional confidence. How are you,
yeah.
expressing yourself
Mm.
emotionally confident in your emotions, or what do you need to work on that, or something like that. So, when I'm doing a rider deck, it kind of morphs into it. But if I ever felt stuck in the Marseille, sometimes I'll go back to the rider weight imagery because, see if that fits in there. But I like the idea of like, do you need to work on emotional confidence? Are you being a doormat? Like, um, you know, or feeling stuck or something like that. So, like, so anyway.
Yeah.
That's a nice one. Yeah.
Yeah. That's good,
I
John.
was kind of glad we were talking about the sevens because in trying to learn all the numerology and such, 7 I find is the weirdest number. Like I have seen more definitions for 7. Like if you ask somebody the numerology meaning of 4, stability everywhere. But the 7, I've got a damn list here of things. Yes, I've got Lynn's retest, I've got predicament, steadiness, holding fast, the engine that keeps you moving forward, like all these different meanings. The 7 seems to be a very tumultuous time. It's like Lynn's Tarot Mountain. It's not the 5, but it's similar in that it's a challenging spot.
Yes.
Does that
They
make
say
any sense?
the
Yeah.
5 and 7. Say 5 is for change, disruption and change, and 6 then is harmony,
Oh, yeah.
and then you get the 7 again, and that is more trouble that you've got to sort out.
7 is shifting to low gear and trying to move forward, but it's yeah, it's like you're on an uphill climb, you get to the top, and then you have to
You have to
you
get
have the
back
roller
down that
coaster.
mountain. Yeah.
Yeah, and so you got to shift gears, you got to go into low gear.
Yeah,
Fall off the
that's a
mountain.
good analogy. I didn't think
Yeah,
about it.
I like
That's a
that.
great analogy. I like that too.
Yeah, again, it's like the chariot, it's the drive, it's the driving force behind these cards,
That's right.
right? and what we do with it. Well, listen to
Move
me.
on to the Seven of Swords, which is my
Oh,
it.
oh.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. I love this card.
You
And-
love it.
Not many people love the Seven of Swords.
Well,
That's
I mean, let me rephrase. I'm passionate about this card.
okay.
And let me tell you the notes I made for myself is like, I see this card in a couple of different ways. I see it as going alone, or my key phrase for it is flying under the radar, you know. But here are the two main things for me. First place, I think it's about testing our honor and our integrity, or our accountability in a situation, because sometimes we feel so overly confident about a situation that we might feel entitled to cut corners and or to take a shortcut on something that we shouldn't. And so when I see this card, I always think about my own integrity, or do I have integrity in this situation, or what is my accountability in this situation. But the other thing that I'm really passionate about this card is I tend not to look at the Seven of Swords as theft of material things, because that's a mainstream meaning for this card. But I like to look at it as somebody stealing our ideas, or stealing our thunder, or stealing our identity. And sometimes I feel like it's okay to even the score and take back what's rightfully ours. But then, you think that, I mean, if you look at the card, look at, he's leaving swords behind, right? So it's almost as if he's taking back what's rightfully his, but he's not, but he's leaving what's not. He's leaving the rest. So this could be something like, taking back our lost dignity, or our loss of confidence. And the problem is, for me, is how we go about doing that is sometimes, maybe we need to fix a problem but we're doing it in the wrong way, or are we doing it in the right way? And so I just see this as, I mean, I just see a lot of different,
There is.
levels.
I happened to be reading this morning from a different book, just the deck I'm trying to learn with. It's a whole thing. But anyway, so I was reading about the Seven of Swords in particular, and I got some meanings I'd never seen before about clever diplomatic strategies, a premonition, surprise, or secret revealed, clairvoyance, and divination. So I thought that was kind of cool. Ingenious, mysterious, secret, artful. Like, as opposed to your typical thief, deception, the standard meanings of
Right.
the Seven of
He's
Swords.
definitely clever.
And
definitely
loopholes.
clever.
I like that one. Loopholes.
Yeah.
You just slide right through there.
Anne-Marie?
I wrote down a few bits about it, and I'm not sure where these came from. And one part was, why is he leaving two swords behind? What was that idea about? Another was, why is he carrying the swords? He's very likely, looking in the Rider-Waite-Smith idea, he's far more likely to hurt himself than to hurt anyone else with those swords.
That's not a good way to carry swords.
No, that's not a good way. So he's far more likely to hurt himself. He hasn't thought this through. And it says here that this card is related to the Five of Swords. And the Five of Swords, our character achieved his goal through force and direct confrontation. Here in the Seven, he uses stealth and cunning to achieve the same ends. The remaining two swords, which he has turned his back on, could represent diplomacy and negotiation, because the swords are ideas of the mind.
Right.
He could have been honest and asked for the swords, or asked for something that was his that he wanted back, but he chose not to. So then they go on to say it's a card of greed, deceit, and avoiding confrontation. I can see that he's avoiding confrontation rather than asking and making a case for himself, which he might have a very good case for getting something back, even if it's his own time. Someone taking too much of your time, and you find you need this time for yourself now. You've been doing lifts, or you've been doing something for years or for a while, and now you want your own time back. And instead of looking for it, you go a funny way about it. So I had a little note here. He didn't really plan to fail. He just failed to plan.
Yeah. Interesting.
I
John?
like Lynn's thing about taking back something that was yours in the first place. That's clever. I hadn't seen that. Sorry, John.
No, that's right. John, got anything
Oh.
on this?
I guess I'm in a really weird place with looking at the cards and reading is so I'm kind of literal with what it is. So these are swords. So this is about, you know, mental, how you're thinking.
Right.
And again, I'm trying to move away from the images all the time. So I'm in this really weird transitional place when I read the images on the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. You know, it can be so many different things. But when you're doing again with the Marseille and it's just 7 swords, then I go back to mental and confidence in how you think and stuff like that. So it's really interesting. Sometimes I really like the Marseille kind of approach because
Yeah.
it's so much more open, you know, because this card, you know, is it, I don't know, hold on. I never get this, doesn't work. Oh, yeah, here.
It's the blur.
Yeah.
If you have
anyway.
your background blurred, it
Yeah.
messes with that.
So, you know, it can go, the image can take you into such a direct place where like it, you know, it's deceit or something like that, but it's about how you think maybe about deceit if you wanted to do that, not necessarily just about plain deceit.
See, I think
You
you're
know, it's about,
absolutely right. And if you look at the picture gives us an action that I mean, it leads us in one direction, but
He's looking over his shoulder.
yeah, but in turn, if you stop and not look at the picture and you think, yeah, look at it from an intellectual point of view, because this is about thought. It's about what we think and about how we communicate what we think is the whole element of sword. And so yes, this is leading us down one path when really, if you just stop and look at, what do the sevens mean to you, and what does, and from an intellectual point of view, what do the sevens mean from you? Yeah, it takes you in a completely different direction, doesn't it?
You can even look at that as taking away from this podcast. I'm going to take these 5 swords that I learned and leave 2,
Yeah.
well, in this card here,
Oh yeah, thanks.
know,
That's
Way
cool.
better.
he
Yeah.
looks, he looks a little more confident to me,
Yeah.
like in
He
the
does.
way he's thinking about whatever he's doing, and you know,
And he's
but
not stabbing himself in the knee doing it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
no, but so I kind of, since because of Vince, I started working with the Marseille, and then my original tarot teacher was a numerologist, so she always applied numerology to how we interpreted the cards. And now when I'm playing with the Marseille, I'm like, I love the freedom of not having to do the picture, like the 3 of Swords. Everybody says that's heartbreak, but that's a card of the mind.
That's
It's
right.
not a card of emotions.
Right.
There was, so
Right.
how do you always, can get stuck in that place with the image, where I think there's so much more freedom if we stick to, like, what does sevens mean for us? What does
Right.
swords for us? What does cups or whatever mean for us? Because, if we're in
Vince
this,
Petici,
What-
for the 3 of Swords, and it's so interesting that you bring that up, because I see the 3 of Swords, and I got this from Tom Benjamin, who is wonderful on YouTube, but he calls it wounding with words.
Yes,
And to
yes,
me, that is so appropriate. But if you
yes.
go with the Vincent Petici teachings, 3 is about, he always looked at it as expansion, right?
or
So it was
creativity.
mental
Creativity.
expansion.
Mm.
Yeah. So that, is a
Yeah.
little different. But I agree with you. Once I was taught numerology, I taught to incorporate numerology with tarot. My whole life changed. And it was reading a book called 21 Ways to Read a Tarot Card by Mary K. Greer.
Mary G. Greer,
And
yes.
in that book, she has that tarot mountain, which, by the way, I do have a video of how I explain it. I'll put that down. I'll put that below in the description, and so people can follow that. But I mean, it changed my whole way of reading tarot, changed everything for me. And then years later, 10 years later, after reading professionally 10 years, so did then Tarot Healer by Lisa Robertson. It's just blowing my mind and changing my whole perception again. So I love tarot. Don't you just?
Just looking at this card now, this is the first time this has kind of struck me. Looking at the card and just looking at him there with his 5 swords, and there are 2 that are solid, and can be transported carefully.
Flexible.
And I'm just wondering, is it a warning to change your way of thinking? 5 is about change. The plan you have, just change your plan. Get something more solid and dependable.
And John, if you'll note in that card that she held up, if you'll note, because you're talking about 7s being about confidence, you'll notice he's got red boots and a red hat. And of course, the color red is about confidence. So there's a little bit of that built in there.
Petici was confidence and experience. I had to go back to my little Petici keywords on a sheet. His numbers, he had a different approach.
His own way.
Oh, what was so interesting for me was because when I originally learned, my teacher was a numerologist. And when I found Vince's teaching, so many of his keywords worked with the numerology I learned, 40 some years ago. So it kind of clicked. But like Lynn was saying, then the whole way I read was different. Like in the Marseille, I was like, who could read those cards? There's no pictures. But then if you're applying what the actual suits mean to the numbers and then corresponding them, it just opens it up so much. I love the images. I mean, I'm stuck on images, and Rider-Waite, I probably have 8 different varieties of Rider-Waite text.
I think that if I was just reading for myself, I think I would probably turn to Marseille. I think I would lean more toward Vince's teachings. The fact that I'm a professional reader in a shop, I like to lay something out for someone and say, do you feel like this? And they can, with the pictorial cards, they can relate. And in our community, there is that debate about whether or not these cards lead people in one direction or the other, and possibly away from the right meanings. But what are the right meanings? Your meanings?
And then there's Thoth and Kabbalah, which I've been delving into for a month. So there's like
So listen, let's move on to the last one, which is the 7 of Pentacles. Yes, the 7 of Pentacles.
I got this one in my morning reading today.
You did?
Yeah, 7 of
How
Pentacles.
interesting. And what did that tell you this morning, John? What did that tell you about your day?
So I got the Death card and the Star card, and then this one was in the middle.
Oh, wow.
So, again, to me, it's about confidence in the material world, and I do see this image as a little bit like not, if I look at the image, it's kind of maybe feeling a little down or not confidence in how I'm moving in the world. So it was kind of something similar to that.
Right.
But so if I look at the image, it kind of feels like things aren't working out. But if I look at it from Pentacles and the 7, it's like, for me, it's like finding my personal confidence to move forward and to trust my values and how I see the world and what's important on the, kind of in work and home and the physical world, sometimes I feel kind of beaten down by that, but like, how do I lift myself up and support the way I see the world?
See, to me, that comes back to your personal integrity or your personal accountability, the this with that, like, just like with the other one, it's it's moving through this world, right? Having to forge through, having to be retested, having our confidence level retested,
Yeah.
and be able to move forward. You know what? So many people call this, uh, uh, they yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess I look at it as, or what I try to explain this card to my clients is, look, we till the soil and we plant the seed and we fertilize and we water and we do everything that we can to grow whatever it is we're trying to grow in our life. And there comes a point in time when you have to step back and let the thing mature, let the plant mature. And it's that waiting, that time when we all of a sudden, it's like we start second guessing ourselves. Should I cut my losses and change jobs? Should I get a different, am I going to have to move to a different city? Am I going to have, we start, instead of just letting things ferment for a while and grow. So I think that for me, the card really does, it stands for patience, having patience to let what we've planted, the seeds we've planted, the artwork that we've designed, the marketing plan that we created, and giving it a chance to do its thing, before we just want to haphazardly change direction. And I think that, for me, that's, and also I see it as a cry for structure in someone's life. We need, it's like, I think that, also, I think, as verbs, it's like effort or systemize, systemizing something. So I think it helps if we can, what did I write here? I said, in a reading, it could tell us that we could make great strides by keeping our head down and applying ourselves in a quiet and consistent and methodic manner, and do what needs to get done. But at some point, step back and let it become whatever it's supposed to become. Anyway, just my opinion. Playing to our strengths, right?
Yeah.
Like that.
Well, yeah, and I'm looking at an interpretation where it says, reaping what you sow, continue working on your projects, physical or financial stability after hard work. Money can't buy happiness. So there you go. I'd like to try
It
them.
can mind me a whole lot of things that make me happy, though.
Right. Well, if we're
It
talking
sure can buy you the type of misery you enjoy. That's what I
Yeah,
remember.
They say that if you say money can't buy happiness, you just haven't discovered where to shop yet.
You know what? I absolutely agree. Anytime I've heard that, I mean, my whole life, anytime I've ever heard that expression, money can't buy happiness, it's like bullshit.
Yeah, absolutely. I
I'd
agree.
like I'd like to give it a go.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Hey,
Go
hey,
ahead.
circling back for one sec.
Okay.
With the Seven of Swords, um, when I look at it, I think to myself, and again, me, I think that depending on whatever the surrounding cards, you have on this, it's going to work whichever way, right? So many different ways to interpret it. But when I see this card, I think to myself, it's like, wow, okay, so you really think that everything within this project or whatever, that it was all you, that if without you they wouldn't have been able to do whatever it is that they've done. So again, it's a sword, it's a thinking card.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
you think you're all that?
Yeah.
Do
That's
you
the
really?
accountability. That's the integrity in that card that comes out in that card.
It's like, what? Wow, you really think a lot about yourself, don't you? Because you're
The
taking
ego.
back, yeah, you're taking back what you think that was all your contribution, was it? So, I mean, depending
But
on the
yet he's
surrounding,
leaving behind what he
yeah.
didn't
And,
feel
and why
belonged to
are you
him.
leaving that behind? It's like it's a card of well, it's a card of thought. And it's, you know, and it's and to me, it's kind of like, well, what exactly are you thinking? You know, I would question, if this came up in a reading, I would, you know, I would talk to the querent and say, well, you know, why do you think that it, you know, that you needed to do this, or that you feel that you're being ripped off?
Yeah.
Why do you feel that? And go further, and then get, you know, cards to
Cards
clarify
will
that.
tell. The cards will
Yeah.
show.
Because I
So,
mean, yeah.
yeah. So, is anybody got something? Anybody have anything going on that you would like to share with
Didn't
people?
Anne Marie want to say something?
Oh,
I think Anne Marie
yes.
wanted to say something
And
about the.
I just say something about this Seven of Pentacles. What strikes me with this is, don't let one little setback or hiccup ruin your whole plan or your whole idea. Look how well he's got on. He's got six very well thriving pentacles, and then one has fallen by the wayside. One is down there, and here he's
right.
looking downcast and upset. So something goes wrong. So what? It doesn't mean everything has gone wrong. So just value how far you've come so far, and don't let this. Just don't let one little thing put you off.
And I have never really noticed that, Anne Marie. Thank you. I've never really noticed that the one was just sitting by itself on the ground.
But that's the one almost he's concentrating on.
Yeah.
It's like the five of cups nearly. He's just concentrating on the one thing that didn't produce
Yeah.
and forgetting all that he has actually achieved.
I am going to be able to use that moving forward.
Interesting.
I like
Yeah.
that a lot. That's why these are so good for us. And that's just why it's good to stay on these things, because we share all this information, you know. Go ahead, Yvonne. What were you going to show us? Yvonne, did you going
I'm
to
sorry.
were you going to show us a card?
Oh, I was just pulling up the same card,
Oh,
the
okay.
Seven of Pentacles.
Oh yeah.
See, my guy's not looking. Where's he looking?
Yes, so there's different cards, I suppose.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
the funny thing is, when I started off with the Rider-Waite-Smith, and
It's a good place to start.
no matter what deck I've got, I go along with my deck nicely,
Yeah.
and my mind goes back to the picture
Mine
that's
does
in the
too.
Rider-Waite-Smith.
Yeah. Yeah,
This
mine
is
does.
why this is why I say when I teach people tarot, I always require, if we're going to do a full teaching on tarot, I require a Rider-Waite-Smith. And it was because my dad, the car dealer, would never give us an automatic transmission in high school. We all had to learn on a standard transmission, because he said if you can drive a stick, you can drive anything. And to this day, I can read any deck, but whatever comes up in my mind, I'm seeing the right away. Now
Yeah.
listen, in Yvonne, I'm pointing. I'm like you can see me. In your Seven of Pentacles, Yvonne, if you notice above his head, it looks like a kettlebell. It's like he's producing kettlebells. I don't know why, but that
Is that a
bothers me.
gourd?
That bothers me that
I'm on a
he's
phone, so
growing
I'm having trouble
kettlebells.
seeing.
So what part do you not like?
I don't like the fact that he's growing kettlebells.
What?
Well, what's so interesting? So I have this deck, which
Yeah.
I love the images.
What's the name of it?
Heaven and Earth, I think.
Because you've
Yeah,
shown that deck.
the Heaven
Beautiful
and Earth
deck.
tarot. But you know, this has a keyword, and this is they bug me, but it's success unfulfilled.
Oh,
Oh, that's too bad. It's unfulfilled yet.
That
Unfulfilled so far.
well, that's interesting,
Well,
but this does not seem like a sad card to me. It's kind
No.
of
I agree. Did I lose everybody? Hello. I hope that's not me. Okay, folks. It seems like
and
oh, there you are. You're all back. Woo.
so this to me this looks like a successful card,
Yeah.
you
So
know,
does
and it just looks
Yvonne's.
like he's contemplating. It doesn't look like and even in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, it doesn't look like he's, you know, he's just kind of taking a break and looking at the work
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
was done, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah, this
So,
card,
Weighing it up. He's weighing up what is done and what is yet to be done, perhaps.
Right.
It's
yeah,
it's hard it's hard to morph between systems. You can use the RWS and just translate to Thoth or to
Mm.
Marseille, but you can deeply study Marseille and
Interesting. Oh. Woo. I have a feeling, folks, this is my internet that's causing an issue, although it's not saying I have an issue, but I've kind of lost everybody for a minute. I feel so like all alone being here.
then
Oh,
you're
you're all
frozen.
back.
There you're
there you
back.
are.
So listen, I'm gonna pull this to a close now. I'm trying to keep these, 90 minutes or less. But I just wanted to find out if there's anybody else that has anything going on that you want to share or have people know. Yvonne, the week before, the second Tuesday of every month, the God, what's the name of the group now again? Conceptual Blending.
conceptual blending.
Facebook group is you have an open meeting to the public as well.
Well, it's not open to the public. The
Oh.
conceptual blending is open to the group.
Okay.
I have not gone on YouTube or anything. I was just carrying on this for the group.
Right.
But if I were to do it, if I were to do the gatherings on YouTube,
Mhm.
then yeah, we would be open to the public.
Yeah.
But
Well, you're
haven't
right.
done
It's
that.
open to the group, but anybody can sign up. Anybody can join
Yeah, join
our
the
group
group.
that has an
Conceptual
interest
blending.
and then
I
talk
think
about
we're
that.
all in the group.
Yeah.
Right, we
Yeah.
are.
That's it. That's a second Tuesday. Yeah, we're all in it.
Yeah.
That's the second Tuesday of the month. And then, John, you are doing, you're back to doing your farmers markets and your fairs and stuff, and you're reading in Sonoma County, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, what's the name of the market? So in case somebody's watching, they want to, and they're in town.
The original certified organic farmers, Santa Rosa Farmers Market.
There you go.
Wow.
Santa Rosa.
That's a handle.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And Rebecca Dusk, you are working behind the scenes, getting your YouTube channel up, getting possibly an Etsy shop up. You're working toward
Hopefully soon.
professional reading.
I'm doing a couple actually now, just people reading for them. So it's good. I've moved on. Good.
That's a great thing.
But I know there's one girl in our tarot tribe. She's doing short. She's in the same 78-day challenge I am, and she's doing short. Ina, I think.
Mhm.
And I might try that for one of them because I've been doing mine by typing in text, and it'd be kind of fun to try doing one video format. So I
Yeah.
thought I might start with that, a short, just
Would you put them on Instagram or?
yeah, YouTube, or I guess they could go to both, right? I'm a
Yes, they
newbie to
can.
Instagram. It's like I'm just getting started there, but yeah.
And then
Good for you.
Anne Marie, you don't have you're not are you still going? Oh no, you're going to that interesting
Where I'm doing,
Lenormand, the tarot group, the turn
I have a problem at the moment, which is why it's very hard to get my readings that I do are on a Tuesday night from here. They are from 7 to 9. So this one works out from 6 to about 7:30.
Yeah.
And that's every week. So
Everything's on Tuesday. I don't know what it is about
so
Tuesday. It's always.
I run into
This is
problems
good.
there, which is why I missed a lot of Yvonne's as well. So anyway, I'll have to work something about that, because of course, being greedy, I want it all, don't I? I want to come to this one and I want to do
Seven of
the readings as well, because they're both so interesting. So I'll have to figure out that.
No,
So-
this podcast was really interesting.
Mm.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So for me, as a lot of people know, I am moving out of my shop next week on Monday. I'm moving out of a retail, crazy, drama-filled place, and I'm going to this really soft, serene, beautiful day spa place in McAllen, Texas. And I am going from foot traffic to by appointment only. And it's really scary because I'm having to learn social media, which is just a pain in the rear. Oh, it's one thing after another. So I ask all of you and anybody watching, please follow me on TikTok and Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. and because that's where everything will be. And I want you to know that as of 15 minutes before this podcast recording, I became the official owner of DevineCentral.com.
Nice,
To do with it
nice.
yet,
Woo,
but,
woo, woo.
you know, I had to have a
Bravo.
domain in order to get my email list going. It's like a requirement now by Google and Yahoo and Hotmail and all these places that are having trouble with us.
Yeah, you
So
tackle
it's,
all the tech stuff. It's amazing.
yeah, it's kind of, well, you know what I was saying? I was telling
It's
Dee,
daunting.
what I was telling Dee, who obviously had a lot of technical issues today and had to leave us. But what I was telling her this morning was that I am spending right now, this last month, I'm spending about 80 to 90% of my time on marketing, learning, posting, figuring it out, scheduling, figuring out what I'm going to do, and 10 to 20% on my craft. And I don't like it. I need to get back to my craft, and I want to do that.
Mm.
You know, I really miss it, and I miss working with you, Rebecca, on the tarot healer. And we're going to get back to that. I know we are. So.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks
It's all
everybody
in a
for
bag.
being here.
Thank you.
Next month would be the 6s. If anybody and everybody's welcome to come. And
Six.
I think we'll
And
just see y'all there.
you're the third Tuesday of every month. Is that
Third
what you're doing
Tuesday
for?
at noon Central Time, Chicago time.
Okay.
Yeah, third Tuesday. I'm gonna write it down.
Yep,
because-
third Tuesday at noon Central. Thanks,
Okay.
guys, and I'll send out an invitation too. I'll make sure it gets out there. And
Cool.
So,
Perfect.
and then what I'm going to do for people that are not here, I put it on Instagram, but if it's easier for you to remember, I'll just do a short with the information and put it on YouTube as well, right at the top in my shorts. So how's that? Thanks, guys.
Sounds
We'll
good.
see you next time.
Thank you.
Happy
Okay,
Bye,
Thanksgiving.
bye.
everybody. Take
Bye.
care.
To
Bye,
the Americans.
guys.
Everybody.
Okay, bye-bye.